My sister, glowing and pregnant at the dinner table, looked me dead in the eye and demanded I hand over every penny of my IVF savings to pay for her dream wedding. It was just last month, a Tuesday evening, when my parents decided we needed a family celebration for Chloe. She just announced her pregnancy to the world, and apparently that meant the world, specifically my small, hard-won world, needed to bend to her will. We were at that Italian place Chloe loves, the one with the ridiculously overpriced pasta that my parents always insist on treating us to, even though I've told them a million times I'd rather just split a pizza at home. But Chloe likes the ambience, you know? The kind of ambience that lets her feel like she's living her best life, even if someone else is footing the bill. She sat across from me, radiating that smug, self-satisfied glow only Chloe ever truly mastered. Her fiancé, a man named Marcus who had a perpetual deer-in-headlights look, sat beside her, probably still recovering from the whirlwind romance that culminated in this evening. The appetizers had just arrived, some kind of bruschetta I didn't touch, when Chloe, mid-sentence about the adorable nursery themes she was considering, casually dropped the bombshell. "You know," she said, dabbing her mouth with a linen napkin, "this baby really changes everything. We want to get married before it arrives, a real dream wedding, not some rushed courthouse thing." She paused, her eyes, usually so calculating, now sparkling with what I can only describe as feigned innocence. "And Avery, darling, you're not exactly using your IVF fund right now, are you? It's what, $30,000? More." The air left my lungs. The clinking of forks on plates, the murmur of the other diners, the cheerful Italian music, it all faded into a dull roar. I felt the blood literally drain from my face, a cold rush starting at my scalp and pouring down my body, leaving me hollow. $30,000. $30,000 and a little change, to be exact. The exact figure I had just confirmed with my clinic the week before, ready for my next cycle. "I mean," she continued, completely oblivious or perhaps perfectly aware of the silent devastation she'd just unleashed, "it's just sitting there. IVF is so expensive and stressful, maybe it's a sign, you know? Family helping family. You can always wait." She waved a dismissive hand, as if my deepest, most agonizing hope was merely a delayed flight. The silence that followed was deafening. My parents, who had been clucking over Chloe's pregnancy glow moments before, suddenly went rigid. They exchanged a look, a tiny, almost imperceptible nod between them. Not a nod of horror or protest or even pity for me. No, it was a nod of agreement, of approval. As if Chloe had just articulated their own unspoken sentiment. It still stings to remember, and I wonder if anyone out there, maybe from Boston or Phoenix or wherever you're watching from today, has ever felt that kind of betrayal at their own family dinner table. I honestly want to know, because in that moment, I felt completely, utterly alone. That night, it wasn't just the $30,000. It was the crushing weight of every slight, every injustice, every time I'd been overlooked in favor of Chloe. Because this wasn't an isolated incident. This was Chloe. Always Chloe. Chloe was the golden child, born under a lucky star, or so our parents always made it seem. From the moment I could remember, she got her way. My childhood memories are a highlight reel of Chloe's entitlements. My favorite teddy bear, a fuzzy, one-eyed wonder named Barnaby, suddenly became her comfort object. My prized collection of sparkly gel pens, borrowed indefinitely and never seen again, my painstakingly saved allowance for a new bike, magically transformed into a loan for Chloe's expensive concert tickets, a loan that of course was never repaid. The parents always had an excuse, a rationale. "She's younger, Avery, she doesn't know any better." Then, "She's older, Avery, she needs more responsibility." It morphed into, "She's just more sensitive, Avery, don't upset her." My achievements were always quietly downplayed. My academic scholarships, my successful internships, my career advancements, they were met with a polite nod, followed quickly by, "Did you hear Chloe got a new designer handbag?" Or, "Chloe's dating such a promising young man." It was a subtle, insidious erosion of my self-worth, a constant reminder that my light, no matter how bright, would always be overshadowed by Chloe's manufactured brilliance. Even major life decisions revolved around Chloe's convenience. Family holidays were always dictated by her schedule, her preferred destination, her whims. My own preferences, my own plans, were always secondary, easily dismissed with a casual, "Oh, Avery, you're so flexible you won't mind, will you?" And if I ever dared to voice a protest, even a gentle one, I was instantly shamed for not being supportive enough of my sister. My parents had built a kingdom where Chloe was queen, and everyone else was a dutiful, silent subject. Meanwhile, my own journey had been a silent, agonizing battle. For years, my husband and I had dreamed of having children. We tried, and when nature refused to cooperate, we turned to science. Infertility is a cruel thief. It steals your hope, your joy, your sense of control. It taxes your body with hormones and procedures, leaves you bloated and bruised, physically and emotionally. It strains your relationships, your sanity, and perhaps most acutely, your finances. That IVF savings account wasn't just a number in a bank. Every penny represented a sacrifice. It was the 2-week vacation to Italy I'd always dreamed of, postponed indefinitely. It was the down payment on a new car, driven instead in my old, sputtering sedan. It was career opportunities I'd turned down because they would have involved too much travel, too much stress, too much interference with treatment schedules. It was every skipped dinner out, every carefully budgeted grocery trip, every small luxury foregone. It was years of silent grieving, of putting on a brave face, of watching friends and family effortlessly start families while my own womb remained stubbornly, painfully empty. Each dollar was a tear shed, a prayer whispered, a fragile thread of hope woven into a future I desperately wanted to build. And Chloe, in her magnificent entitlement, had just casually dismissed it as money not being used right now. Chloe's whirlwind engagement to Marcus, the wealthy man with the deer-in-headlights look, had been just another chapter in her perfectly curated life. She flaunted him, his family's impeccable lineage, their sprawling estate outside Charlotte, his promising career in finance. Every social media post, every casual conversation was peppered with details of their opulent lifestyle. But I always had a nagging suspicion. Call it sisterly intuition, or perhaps just years of observing Chloe's smoke and mirrors act. Her lifestyle, the constant designer shopping sprees, the impromptu luxury getaways, the endless stream of expensive necessities for her brand. It seemed to stretch far beyond what Marcus's declared income, even a generous one, could comfortably support. I suspected she was hiding something financially, a desperate attempt to maintain an image of effortless wealth that simply wasn't real. After Chloe's audacious demand, I don't remember much of the rest of that dinner. The food tasted like ash. My parents tried to make small talk, but their eyes kept flicking to me, then to Chloe, then back to their plates, betraying their discomfort, their guilt, their complicity. I excused myself as soon as humanly possible, feigning a sudden, blinding migraine. My head was pounding, but it wasn't from pain. It was from the roar of white-hot rage that had erupted inside me, a furious inferno that threatened to consume everything in its path. I drove home in a haze, the world outside my car window blurring. The moment I got through my front door, the carefully constructed calm shattered. I paced, I cried, I screamed silently into a pillow, every single slight, every betrayal, every stolen dream replaying in my mind like a horrifying highlight reel. This wasn't just about the $30,000. This was about years of emotional abuse, of being treated as disposable, as a resource to be tapped, a shadow to be cast. My existence, my feelings, my very desire for a child had been so utterly devalued, so casually dismissed. It felt like a punch to the gut that had been years in the making. That week was a blur of quiet seething. I went through the motions of work, of life, but my mind was a tempest. I felt an intense, almost primal need for justice, for recognition, for an end to Chloe's reign of entitlement. I considered confronting her, screaming at her, telling her exactly what I thought. But I knew it would be useless. She would cry, she would play the victim, my parents would swoop in, and I would be once again the unsupportive sister, the difficult one. No, a direct confrontation wouldn't work. Chloe was too skilled at deflecting, at twisting narratives. I needed something undeniable. Something that would expose her for who she truly was, not just to me, but to everyone who had ever fallen for her golden child act. One desperate, sleepless night, probably around 3 a.m, I found myself hunched over my laptop, typing how to expose a manipulative sibling into the search bar. The results were a mix of Reddit threads, therapy blogs, and a few truly wild suggestions. But as I scrolled, a memory resurfaced, a flicker of something I'd stumbled upon months ago. It had been an accident. Chloe had asked me to help her set up a new laptop, claiming she was terrible with technology. While I was installing software, I'd briefly seen a browser tab open, flashing brightly with what looked like a credit card statement, then quickly minimize itself. Something about the names on it had caught my eye, not just her name, but a few unfamiliar ones, associated with what looked like an online gambling site. I had dismissed it at the time, chalking it up to Chloe's usual financial chaos, but the image had lingered. Now, with a clear, almost surgical precision, I knew what I had to do. Chloe had always been terrible with digital footprints. She was sloppy, arrogant in her perceived invincibility. I remembered a conversation about her struggling with her secret credit card debt, a confession she'd made to a mutual friend after a few too many glasses of wine, a confession the friend had later relayed to me, worried. Chloe had always lived beyond her means, desperate to keep up appearances, especially after meeting Marcus and his affluent family. The pregnancy had only amplified that pressure. A dream wedding wasn't just a desire, it was a necessity for her image. I spent the next few days meticulously, methodically, compiling my evidence. I knew enough about her online habits, her past email addresses, her go-to passwords. She used the same few for everything, a detail I knew from years of bailing her out of forgotten account logins. It wasn't hacking, not really. It was more like piecing together a puzzle from publicly available, poorly secured information and a few educated guesses. I found it all. Not just a mountain of hidden credit card debt, far exceeding what she could ever hope to repay, but also a paper trail of transactions to various online gambling sites. The kind of money she was losing, week after week, was staggering. It confirmed my suspicion. Her dream wedding wasn't about love, it was about a desperate attempt to secure a rich husband before her house of cards completely collapsed. And my IVF money? Just another convenient brick to shore up her crumbling facade. I printed everything. Every single damning statement. Every gambling site transaction. I didn't want any room for denial. Then, I added something else. A copy of my own IVF treatment plan, outlining the excruciatingly detailed procedures, the medications, the timeline, the hope. And finally, a single bank statement showing the exact balance of my IVF savings account, the one she had so blithely tried to claim. I bought a beautiful, expensive wedding gift box, the kind you'd give for a truly special occasion. I layered tissue paper inside, and then carefully, almost reverently, I placed the meticulously compiled dossier. The credit card statements, the gambling records, my IVF plan, my bank statement. On top, I placed a small, elegantly printed card. It read, "For your dream wedding and the life you're really building." I want to hear what you all think. Was I going too far, or was this the only way to finally cut the cord and reclaim some sense of dignity? Let me know in the comments. The confrontation itself took place at what was supposed to be a celebratory pre-wedding dinner for Chloe and Marcus's families. His parents had invited everyone to their estate, a sprawling mansion nestled in the Carolina Hills. It was a formal affair, everyone dressed to impress, the kind of gathering Chloe thrived on. The kind where she could present her perfect, polished image to her fiancé's influential family. My parents were there, of course, beaming with pride at their golden daughter, completely unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. I walked in, a small, elegantly wrapped box in my hands. I felt a strange mix of calm and a racing heartbeat. It wasn't triumph I felt, not yet. It was a quiet, almost cold resolve. I found Chloe holding court in the grand living room, laughing a little too loudly at one of Marcus's father's dry jokes. Marcus was beside her, looking slightly uncomfortable in his tuxedo. His parents, impeccably dressed and radiating a quiet, old-money authority, were observing the scene. I approached them, a sweet, serene smile on my face, the kind that never quite reached my eyes. "Chloe," I said, my voice soft, almost a whisper, but clear enough to carry in the momentary lull of conversation. Everyone turned. My parents stiffened, perhaps sensing the shift in my demeanor from the dinner just days ago. "Avery." "You made it," Chloe chirped, a little too brightly, her eyes darting to the gift box in my hands. Her expression was a mix of curiosity and mild annoyance, probably wondering why I was upstaging her by presenting a gift before the actual wedding. "Of course," I replied, extending the box to her. "A little something to help you start your life together, Chloe. Marcus, it's for both of you, of course." I made sure to emphasize Marcus's name, ensuring his attention was fully on the gift. Chloe took the box, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. It was too elegant, too restrained for her usual, flashy taste. She untied the silk ribbon carefully, savoring the moment, clearly expecting something grand and expensive to emerge. As she lifted the lid, the soft tissue paper gave way to a stack of crisp, official-looking documents. Her eyes, at first, registered confusion. Then, as she saw the familiar headings, bank logos, transaction details, her own name repeated on credit card statements, her face began to contort. The color drained from her cheeks, much like it had from mine at that Italian restaurant. The cheerful chatter in the room slowly died down, replaced by a growing murmur of curiosity. Marcus, leaning in, saw the edges of the papers. His brow furrowed. Chloe tried to scramble to push the papers back into the box, but it was too late. My IVF treatment plan, with its stark, clinical details, slipped out and fluttered to the opulent rug. Then, a single bank statement, clearly showing Avery Hayes' IVF savings, and the exact, significant balance cascaded onto the floor. And then the undeniable evidence of her gambling debts, her secret credit card statements, the truth about the life she was really building, spilled out for everyone to see. The air in the room became thick with an unspoken horror. Chloe froze, her mouth agape, her eyes wide with a terror I had never seen in her before. Marcus bent down, his face a mask of dawning realization and disbelief, picking up a few of the stray documents. His parents, who had been watching with polite, distant amusement, now exchanged grave looks. Their polished composure began to crack. "Chloe, what is this?" Marcus's voice was low, laced with a cold anger I hadn't known he possessed. He held up a statement, clearly showing a massive online gambling loss. My parents, bless their hearts, tried to intervene. "Avery, what have you done?" my mother hissed, rushing forward, her face contorted in a desperate attempt to contain the disaster. My father put a hand on her arm, his own face ashen. But it was too late. The truth was out. The carefully constructed facade of Chloe's perfect life had shattered into a million pieces. Chloe let out a choked sob, a sound utterly devoid of her usual theatricality. It was raw, genuine panic. She collapsed onto a nearby velvet armchair, burying her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. It was a public breakdown, humiliating and complete. Marcus, his face now a mask of disgust, didn't comfort her. He simply stood there, staring at the scattered documents, then at Chloe, then at me. The look he gave me wasn't one of anger, but of understanding and perhaps a flicker of gratitude for the truth, however ugly. In that moment, I felt a deep, profound sense of release. It wasn't triumph. It was something far more complex, a bitter sadness mingling with an immense weight lifting from my shoulders. The relationship with Chloe, and by extension, with my parents who had enabled her for so long, was irrevocably shattered. There was no coming back from this. But standing there, watching the chaos unfold, I felt profoundly clear. I had been invisible for so long, and now, finally, I was seen. Not as the unsupportive sister, not as the flexible one, but as Avery, a woman who had been pushed too far and had finally pushed back. That night, I walked out of that mansion, leaving behind the wreckage of Chloe's dream wedding and my parents' shattered illusions. The drive home was quiet, but for the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful. I blocked Chloe's number, her social media, everything. And then, with a deep breath, I did the same for my parents. The constant shaming, the subtle manipulations, the implicit demands on my life and my resources, it all stopped. The silence was deafening at first, a void where years of toxic interaction used to be, but it quickly filled with a sense of peace I hadn't known was possible. In the weeks since, there have been angry messages from Chloe, forwarded through mutual friends, accusing me of everything under the sun. There have been desperate, pleading voicemails from my mother, begging me to fix things, to explain. But I haven't responded, not once, because there's nothing to fix. The truth doesn't need explaining. My IVF journey continues. I still have that savings account, intact, ready for my next cycle. It's still incredibly challenging, physically and emotionally draining, but now it's my journey. Every penny in that account is a testament to my own strength, my own sacrifices, my own unwavering hope. I'm moving forward, investing in myself, in my future, free from the shadow of family betrayal. It cost me my family, or at least the illusion of one, but it saved my self-respect. And for that, I wouldn't trade a single penny. I look at the future now, not with a vague sense of dread, but with genuine hope. Hope for a child, yes, but also hope for myself. Hope for a life lived on my own terms, with my own boundaries, finally free. If my story resonates, if you've ever felt the need to reclaim your own narrative and put yourself first, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and tell me in the comments what part of my journey spoke to you the most. Because sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones that finally set you free.